Earlier, we talked about HBO Max's documentary called Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV. The 4-episode docuseries highlights the traumatic experience of many child stars from Nickelodeon's hit shows like All That, The Amanda Show, Kenan and Kel, and more. Several of the now grown-up actors talked about uncomfortable moments on set, dealing with racism, questionable behavior by superiors, discrimination, being forced to play stereotypical roles, and even sexual abuse at the hands of the adults that they say were supposed to be protecting them, leaving many people wondering how something like this happened. Well, today I am with my second guest. She was not a part of the documentary, but says she still has her own story to tell. Hi everyone, I'm Tamara and welcome to another Who Got the Story exclusive. I'd like to welcome my second guest and one of the OG members of the Nickelodeon show All That. Please welcome Angelique Bates.
Fresh out the box. Stop, look and watch. Ready yet? Get set. It's All That.
So before we get into some things, I'm going to show her a little clip that might bring a lot of people some nostalgic feelings. So let's watch.
Speed presents live from their own kitchen, Cooking with Randy and Mandy.
I'm Randy.
And I'm Mandy.
And this is Cooking with Randy
and Mandy. Hi, Randy.
Hi, Mandy. Tell them what's on the menu.
Today, instead of cooking, we're going to show you some of our special new inventions.
We think you'll find these inventions very useful because they all include chocolate!
Now, you've all heard of metal detectors.
And lie detectors.
We've invented the chocolate detector. Let's see if we can find some chocolate.
Eureka! I detect happiness.
The signal seems to be getting stronger.
It works perfectly.
Let's celebrate. Our next invention is
the chocolate thermometer.
do they take your temperature?
No, but they do make you feel a whole lot better.
Randy and I have invented something for summertime cookouts.
The chocolate barbecue.
You just open it up, turn it on, and grab yourself a chocolate steak.
Now, who needs fatty red meat when you can have a 15-ounce chocolate T-bone?
Don't forget about our special barbecue sauce.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Randy, it seems like the fire's out of control. Any ideas?
Perhaps we should bring on our next invention.
Say hello to the chocolate fire extinguisher.
Ooh, it stings me too. Uh-oh.
What's wrong?
My tongue itches. Gimme.
Is chocolate good for an itchy tongue?
I have no idea.
Well, our next invention is a chocolate bar soap.
You're not fully clean unless you're chocolatey clean. Randy?
Yes, Randy?
I feel all dirty.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Oh, I do hope so. Shall we visit the
chocolate shower?
After you.
Why, thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Oh, what a chocolatey feeling. Oh, what a chocolatey feeling.
So, how you doing, Mandy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. How you feel seeing that clip again?
Wow, I forgot about it actually.
Yeah, we had to find archives.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you found that.
Okay, thank Thank you. But you were also the first person that was in the intro. So like, was it in alphabetical order? Were you the fan favorite? And it wasn't even it was a pilot. So you were the first one. So I'm trying to figure out like how.
They did by the order of the names because my last name is Bates. And actually that particular intro, that was first season. The pilot wasn't really showing us, it was TLC.
Really?
And actually, I kind of feel like they should have kept that one. It's a couple of fans actually, because it was just like a TLC music video. You saw traces of us like in the TV screen where, I had the phone and I was just like going back and forth like this. But the actual pilot is actually TLC doing their thing with the couch. Yeah.
Like, who decided to mess that up? That sounded like it was going to be cute.
It really was, But I mean, I appreciate being the first one,
You gotta set the first.
Yeah, I mean,
set the tone.
Yes.
And she was the first Black girl on there. Let's set the record straight.
Fact.
No token. Okay. So how long were you on all that?
I'd say approximately 2 years because we did the pilot. And then we did the first season, which that took about half a year. And then we had hiatus, and then we came back, and then second season, we just did it all over again.
Really? Okay, so how long did it take to film each episode?
Each episode was pretty much, I'll say a week. Well, I wouldn't say a week. So you have the table reads, you have the rehearsals, and then we would do it Thursdays and Fridays.
Oh, so how long were y'all two all together on set?
For the filming process of one episode, I would say it would be the 2 days because see, Thursday would be without the live audience and then Friday would be the live audience and then that's when the entertainers would come.
Oh, so you're familiar with everybody, producers, staff, everyone that you work with on all that.
Because Monday, Monday was school, Tuesday, Wednesday, now we're getting the wardrobe and everything together. But, shooting wise, it was Thursday and Friday. Oh. And then the weekends, we just had fun. Oh, or whatever, or whatever they did.
Yeah, whatever they did. Got to clarify that. So,
right.
Did you watch the HBO documentary Quiet on Set?
I did not. I did not.
Why? Why did you not watch it?
Well, first of all, I already knew that it was happening. Mm-hmm. They had reached out to me, I want to say over a year ago. I declined multiple times. They were trying to get me to do it for months, and I refused.
Is there a reason why you just decided not to even join?
It wasn't my story. It isn't my story. I've been talking about, what happened with me since, actually a fan just said it the other day. I didn't even realize that it's been this long. Mm-hmm. They said 2009, they were following me back on MySpace. Publicly, like where the Shade Room had gotten it, which was, I think, 2016. That's when everybody else, that's when we had like major social media. But I've really been talking about it since 2009. But like I've always said, Dan never sexually touched me. That was never my story. So a lot of times, a lot of these outlets that try to reach out to me, that's the story that they want. And I told them, I was just like, well, because they told me exactly what it was. I don't think they told everybody on the show what the show was about. Some knew, some didn't, but I knew what it was about. And that wasn't my story. And I was just like, well, you're not going to use me as a poster child. You're not going to use me as clickbait. Because a lot of people don't like to read. A lot of people don't like to click the links. So you would have already just threw me under this one umbrella. And they're already doing it. Like, there's fans that, going to bat for me. But they're like, oh, yeah, she was sexually assaulted by Dan. And she was this. And I'm like, no. See, I was never sexually assaulted by Dan. I was never sexually assaulted by anyone that deals with Nickelodeon at all. So let's just clear that up. No one sexually assaulted me. No one sexually assaulted me in Nickelodeon. That's not my story.
Gotta clarify that. So so I know you were the first person to speak out. Why do you think now everyone's deciding to make documentaries when you were the first to come out and say, hey, this happened to me and no one supported?
You know what? And I've said this multiple times. No one cares about the Black girl getting beat up. No one cares about the Black girl getting bullied. No one cares about, any of that. All they've ever cared about, even with the documentary, they just cared about, the sexual assault. That's really all. And it's unfortunate because there are people out there that have my story too, but because they weren't sexually assaulted, it's almost like, oh, we'll take your story, we'll believe you, but you got to say you were sexually assaulted. And it's almost like what Angela was saying. It's like, why do you even want that kind of story? It's like, what already happened to me was bad enough as it is. Like, I don't need that added on to it.
Exactly.
And like I told I told a couple of people that were on social media because they were trying to switch the narrative. I was like, look, you don't have to add to it. Enough happened. Trust and believe that we don't have to add to it.
Agreed. Because I know one of the things that were pointed out, well, an outlet twisted it. You never came out your mouth to say that you were abused by your mom, but the narrative got kind of twisted and turned to that. So how do you think that rumor came about?
So, okay, so I know what you're talking about. So physically, I was abused by my mother. They're switching it and saying that I also said verbally and mental. Nickelodeon verbally and mentally abused me. And then I saw where somebody was saying under one of the outlets, they were just like, oh, her mother was beating her with the belt in front of the producers. That never happened. I don't even know where y'all got that from. I don't like. First of all, that starts touching into some other stuff, like other legal issues. That never happened. That wasn't that kind of story that was going on. Like I said, enough happened where we don't have to switch the narrative. But with my mom, the crazy thing is she was like a double-edged sword. So whereas the abuser, also the protector. And the narrative would have been different. Maybe I would have did, the documentary. Maybe I would have been just like Drake or whatever if it hadn't been from my mother blocking.
Because I know you touched on it, and your mother did an open letter also about how she blocked a lot of things from happening. So when do you think the retaliation started with your acting career as a child? Because I know it became a point where they kind of wrote you off the season. So can you tell me about that?
I feel like, so first season, like you said, obviously with me being the first one popping up and everything, even though it had a lot to do with the names, but they could have, always switched it around. There started being favorites. And after a while, it got back to us through someone that I'm not going to put out there, but it was someone from the network that I was one of the ones that was getting the most fan mail. I was never told that, never saw the fan mail, but found that out. So obviously production knows that. So if you're trying to push certain narratives and you're trying to push certain cast members, obviously that's not a good look.
So who do you think is the cast member that they were trying to push besides everybody?
Well, I mean, we all know who it was. It was obviously Keenan Kel. You had Lori Beth, and then those were pretty much the main ones. It's pretty much what we see. Because they had the Keenan and Kel show, then you had the Good Burger, so that was, if you look at all of first season, that's pretty much what was happening. But the thing was, it was me and Kel and Keenan. They say there was room for everybody, and there was Lori Beth. But I will say, and I feel like maybe Dan probably didn't want that particular narrative because there was a scene that I had with the boys, Mavis and Clavis. We were doing Mavis and Clavis, and I was the owner of this deli, which a lot of you guys would probably end up remembering. And I had the braids. It was like a braided wig. And I had originally, it never made it to the tape, but I had this voice that I was doing. It was this hilarious accent. Was running it through the table read. Everybody was laughing and everything. And I remember after the table read, Dan took me to the side and pretty much told me to get rid of the voice because it was taken away from the boys.
Wow.
So when it was time to film and we were, rehearsing and everything, everybody was just like, because it was really hilarious. The dynamic of us together was hilarious. And everybody's looking at me, they're like, well, why aren't you doing it? Because it doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't you do what was killing at the table read? And I was just like, oh, I just didn't want to do it. And they're kind of like looking at me like, okay, whatever. So I didn't do it. But that was like the beginning stages of that, little things. So it's just like, they wanted to push the boys, and everyone knows it was favoritism towards the boys in general, period.
That's interesting. So I know that that wasn't the first time Dan pulled you to the side. I also know about the milk scene and how awkward that was. Can you tell people who aren't aware about it?
Well, that wasn't even a pull to the side. So he did that in front of everybody. So there was a scene. It was a milk scene. It was me and Keenan's. Because once again, like I said, I was in a lot of scenes first season. And the scene was about, I guess I was a new kid and Keenan was supposed to be the funny guy or whatever. And then Josh was like telling me, hey, wait till you meet so-and-so or whatever. And I'm just like, why? Anyway, long story short, Keenan's supposed to be cracking us up, but we're all supposed to be drinking milk. Nobody is supposed to spit it out in each other's face. We're not even supposed to touch each other with it. We're supposed to spit it down the table or spit on the floor. That's what the boys did. They were spitting it on the floor. During rehearsal, Elisa decided she wanted to throw the milk. But she did it in a way where she threw it, right here. Now, mind you, this was only supposed to be really a one-take scene, so we did not have double wardrobe. So it was imperative that we got the scene right. So when it got to the part where it was really going to be messy, that was it. So that's why they didn't want us spitting in the face or any of that. So she didn't get in trouble, but it was rehearsal. They're kind of like, okay, guys, be careful, no spitting. But, everybody's laughing. They kind of thought it was, they thought the scene was funny. So because she didn't get in trouble, when it was time to take, Katrina thought it would be hilarious, and she spit the milk directly in my face. So when she spit the milk directly in my face, and she's actually admitted this, and she ended up admitting it, and she's apologized, and she's apologized several times, and she's actually one of the very few that's been there, even when I ended up homeless, and she's helped my children, like all kinds of stuff. So she's definitely tried to redeem herself. But when that happened, when she spit the milk in my face, what happens when someone spits in your face? Immediately, I reacted because it was like whoosh, and then I was just like that, and I immediately threw it in her face, and Dan flew off the handle, completely flew off the handle, was yelling at me. I can't even begin to tell you what he was saying. I don't even remember, but he was yelling at the top of his lungs. The mic was still on. So if you were in the dressing room, if you were on any of the floors, if you were in the office, you heard it because it was intercoms throughout the whole Nickelodeon studio. And the celebrity guest director that we had for that week, because we had different ones, I'm bawling now because he's like literally yelling at me, like just in front of all the cast members. All the cast members saw what happened. And I'm now getting ready to just like run because like I'm dripping from milk, like from my hair all the way down, and I'm crying. And as I'm getting ready to run out the door, the director is followed by Brian Robbins, who is now the president of Nickelodeon. He's like, go to your dressing room. I heard everything and I saw everything. I'm gonna take care of it. And I go into the dressing room, but as I'm going into the dressing room, there's people that are in the office, I'm walking past other dressing rooms because everybody has heard. It's almost like the walk of shame, So I go into my dressing room. My mom is just like, she's livid. She's just like, trying to get me cleaned up or whatever. And then finally the director comes back in because it was a wait though, because they actually had to take Dan upstairs and run back the tapes so he could see what happened. And then the director ended up coming in. He's like, everything is okay. He was apologizing. He was like, are you okay? And then they ended up having Dan come and apologize. He didn't want to, but he did.
Did you ever feel differently from your castmates? Because racism is another thing that was touched on in the documentary. So I want to know about your experience. Since you were on the first season, did you experience any type of discrimination or racism on set?
That wasn't my experience. There was no racism on our set. There was other issues. Like I said, so the narrative for our set wasn't racism. And like I said, I've been talking about it since 2009. If it was racism for me, trust and believe I would have been talking about it back then. I would have said racism over, being abused and being yelled at by producers and a producer making sexual advances towards my mom. Racism is like the easier road to take. So that wasn't my story at all. And actually, if you look at our seasons, you had Kel Keenan, you had Elisa. If you go back and look at all the artists that we had, the theme song, the shows that were coming out. It's like I said, that's not my story, not taken away from anyone else's. But if that was something that they experienced, I can't say it's Nickelodeon. That might have been an all that thing, but it might have been depending on the season of who was there. But once again, that's an isolated situation. It's not the whole entire network.
Agreed. Because I know a lot of people have been going crazy with conspiracy theories, like the people who didn't blow up after the show, they're just mad and they're just trying to get fame and they're defending Nickelodeon. And sometimes that that might be the case. Sometimes it may not. So how do you feel about the people making those comments?
Nickelodeon don't give a damn about me. So it is not, I'm not defending anything. It wasn't my experience. You're not going to sit here and make me say that there was racism and there wasn't racism. That was not the issue. Let's be clear. The producer that was trying to make sexual advances at my mother, she's Black. So
did the retaliation come after she just said no to the advances?
I feel like it was all forms of retaliation. So you already had where Dan was trying to minimize my roles. And actually there was a female writer that we had. She ended up coming out later and you know, pretty much confirming my story that she was like, I think released
was it
after
one of the ones that was featured on the documentary? Because it was
I didn't watch
2.
it. I doubt that she was on there because I would have seen when they were posting it. I don't think she did it. I'm about 99% sure because they would have showed it. But she admitted, like she had been there. Like I think they had fired her like after a week or so, but she was for the girls. She was writing us sketches and they did not like that because they were pushing the boys. So, and she has some awesome scenes. And there's some characters that you guys never even got to see that never even made it to the camera that we were, you know, we
was
had.
it because you were already off of the season, or is it because they just weren't pushing anything you were pitching?
That was it was first season. They wrote it. It was first season. It was one character where it was me. Like it was my character. That the scene was about me, and it got scratched.
Did they tell you why?
I don't know who did it. They just went in another direction. But you know, obviously, we can probably figure out 1 + 1. You know,
honestly.
But to answer your question, there were so many different layers that were going on. So you got to think about the physical abuse that's already happening with my mom. I was staying in they were putting us up in in little condos and everything. And first season, I was staying above Cal. So people were hearing what was happening. And then it was getting back to us that obviously they were going back to the set and they were telling. So so you have cast members that are sitting here. I didn't even know, mind you, I'm finding this out after. So just imagine as a child how I'm already feeling. So now I'm finding out that I'm going to set and everybody knows that I'm getting beat.
So,
you know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy. So you already have that. The producers know about that. So now add that on. Then you have them already trying to weed out. Then you have the sexual advance that my mom rejected. Okay, so then there's that. Then you have situations where there's jealousy going on and you're kind of being bullied and I'm already having issues.
Okay, so let me bring it back to the abuse. So what was happening? Like, what was the extent of the abuse between you and your mom?
Well, the extent of the abuse, so I'm not going to go into the detail of that, because we're at a different stage. And then that's distracting from what the issue is of Nickelodeon. But it was child abuse. There was nothing that she was not hitting me in front of the producers. None of that was happening on the set. We used to stay above Kel, so obviously he's a cast member. That was first season. So I'm pretty sure he was hearing me getting whooped. He was hearing, whether I was hitting the floor, whatever, we all know what child abuse is. Because we're not here to drag my mother. But, the thing is, it was going back. You know what I'm saying? So anytime you know that anybody, whether someone's going back and telling you that there's child abuse, y'all know about it. Y'all didn't say anything. Y'all didn't try to do anything. It didn't become an issue till second season.
Why do you think that was?
Oh, because the cops came in child services. But don't try to use that as an excuse. It was just all good a week ago. So first season, I feel like they didn't care about me getting beat. They were just mad that my mom was blocking them from being able to get me.
And by blocking, what do you mean?
What my mom was doing? So my mom she was making sure I wasn't leaving the dressing room if we weren't filming, because there was no need. She was making sure I was escorted because by law, child labor law, you're supposed to be there. They didn't want some of the parents on the set, and some of the parents weren't. They had no problem. That wasn't my mama. She actually had contacted, child labor law. Of course, they didn't like that. I remember they used to try to put me in, some kind of, some crazy wardrobe. And my mom actually blocked them a couple times and was like, no.
How did they react when she would just block all these things that a parent should do?
I mean, obviously they had, see, you got to remember, think about my age too. So you could see the irritation, but the level of probably how mad they were, I wasn't seeing it. Which obviously, though, it was showing up in the scripts, but I'm not registering that because I didn't really find out anything until second season. I'm just already dealing with what I'm dealing with on set from cast members and, like I said, the milk scene and what Dan is doing. Oh, well, don't do this with this line and don't do this. Don't take away from the boys. And it was just like, now it became a competition thing. And then it's like, it almost, after a while, it's almost like you want to be liked because I'm an only child. So it was like, this was my first time being around all these kids. I'm like, oh my God, I'm around kids now, and I was homeschooled and everything. And so I was just excited. I had never had anything like this. Like I had been working, I had did a movie, I had a commercial, but it was a show. It's Nickelodeon.
Like regular,
you know what I mean?
Like a popular network.
Yeah, like Universal Studios is our backyard. We were right next to Sequest. It was cool. You have all these different celebrities coming up. I'm in the Gap kitchen with Usher, eating slime and boogers, kicking it with Aaliyah. Like, this is all memories. Like, I'm a kid, and it should have been a memorable moment. And a lot of people used to ask me back in the day, like, what is your favorite part about the show? I used to always say the artist, and they would be surprised. I'm like, yeah, because it was. And then they were like, what's your scene? Okay, well, Randy and Mandy, because we could make a mess. But other than that, there were so many different things that happened. Like I said, like you said, with the milk situation, like just that in general. But then it was the fact that she even thought that she could do that. But she was always getting away with stuff.
So you think if the roles were reversed and you did that, it wouldn't have been accepted?
Oh, well, they was already on my head because like there was another situation where the Elisa who had threw the milk, had pretty much been, she was talking about my mama. She was talking about my mama. She was making fun of me. She was like, oh, you pretty much talking about, I was from the hood or whatever, because I'm an inner city kid. Proud of it. I don't care, And she was making fun of me about it. And I remember it went on for like 30 minutes. Like it was all kinds of stuff that was being said. And the crazy thing was there was a guardian that was in the room that was supposed to be watching us.
Was it one of the guardians that are supposed to like watch over the kids on set?
Yes.
And they just let it go on?
Oh yeah, was sitting there just brushing her hair. And I'm just, I'm sitting there like, trying to ignore her, and she's just, doing her little thing. The boys, instigating, whatever, doing what they do, like they always did. And she's just laughing. It's just hilarious. And she just kept on and she kept on, and you already know it. You start talking about people's mamas, and and then you're getting closer.
Did things ever get physical?
Oh, she got close, and then she was in my face, and then saliva came out. I have a thing about spitting on me, like I think most people do. That's not the move. So,
honestly, that's disgusting.
That's not. Don't do that. So saliva, boom, I reacted. I got in trouble for that. She didn't get in trouble for what she did. I got threatened that I'd get fired.
What?
My mom was like, so it sounds like y'all threatening her, like if anything else happens, like.
And what season did this happen in? Was this in the first?
That was first season.
Wow.
That was first season. So it was, like I said, there was always issues, and it was always favoritism.
But it wasn't like on the things that were on the documentary. It was more like cast, rivalry, kind of favoritism.
Yeah, it was nothing like, like I said, that's why I wasn't going to do the documentary. That's not my story. And like I said, you weren't going to use my face as clickbait like they've done several times. I mean, and even in the first episode, they showed clips of me, and I had people tell me, they're like, man, they got you in clips on. So they did it anyway. So just imagine if I actually been in the chair. But like I said, that's not my story. For people like Drake, I feel like that just erased what he was doing. Like, it's already being watered down. Everybody has lost focus of what this documentary is supposed to be about.
It's
just a runaway train going straight to hell. Like,
exactly.
It's going this way, this way, this way, this way. It's just like,
And they're taking the narratives, you think?
the narratives are going all over the place.
What's one thing you've heard that it's totally not true regarding the allegations or the rumors or conspiracy theories about that people are posting? I know you've seen it.
Well, see, there's so many conspiracy. Okay, so, they're saying people got paid off. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Anything is possible. I wouldn't be surprised. And let's just say if it came out, I would not be surprised. But I can only speak for me. And like I said, I know that for my seasons, there was no racism. That wasn't our story. I'm trying to figure out. There's so much crazy stuff online right now. I'm trying to remember of all the crazy. If you remember, tell me some, because I know you were looking.
Number one, when because you touched on it about the racism and then even the sexual abuse, but also there were parents that knew about it, but they just decided to turn the other cheek. Also, so people were placing the blame kind of on, like, not even the network, but the parents too. How do you feel about that?
It's both. It is both. Definitely the parents. And I wouldn't even say it's the network, because, like I said, every show had different umbrellas. Unfortunately, all that came under one umbrella. And if you think about everybody that was involved in the documentary, it was under that umbrella. You didn't really hear about that with Gola Gola Island. I mean, not really. Not even really. You didn't hear about that with Gola Gola Island. You didn't hear about that with, I'm about to say the wrong show, My Brother and Me. You didn't hear about that with Taina. You didn't hear about any of that with any of the other shows. Right. So it's an isolated situation. So I'm not even going to say Nickelodeon as a whole, because I actually know people that were, that worked on That Girl Lele. And they have great experiences. They love the show. They love working for the network because it's different situations. So I'm not going to sit here and just, put it all on Nickelodeon. But I will say a lot of the parents, because I witnessed that with my seasons, because you are supposed to be there. Some of these parents, they're not doing it. They're not staying on set. They don't want to be there. Some of them aren't even in the States, so they're sending guardians. And then you have the guardian that's trying to be cool with production or whatever. It's like, the first person is the parent. The first person is a parent. Then production knows. I know some sets, Taina, there's other shows where they don't even play that. Like, I've worked production for other shows, completely different networks. Don't play that. They're like, where you going? You need to stay with her. You need to stay with him.
And like your mom was, she was on it.
And don't care what you think about it. And that right there, what my mom went through, that's the fear that some of them have, because they don't want to ruffle feathers. I think that was one thing that Brian, in the clip that I was looking at, that's one thing that Brian's mom was saying. So because people can look back and be like, okay, well, why was all that allowed?
Exactly.
But but she was saying so from what I was hearing. But you see, they had already started labeling her. But then they could be like, well, you should have put your foot down. Like,
did
so
they
much
label
stuff.
Your mom in the same way for defending you and always making sure you were straight, in that sense of blocking those like inappropriate behaviors and defending you? Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of almost the same, but she wasn't about to she wasn't about to let the peanut butter and all that stuff go down. Like I said, you weren't getting past rehearsal. Like I said, even when they tried it with the wardrobe, like they tried to have me, it was something I didn't need to be wearing for a 13-year-old. And she was like, nope. She said,
you remember what it was?
I think it was like a skirt that was shorter than the normal length that I normally wear. Like, it was something really like showing the body. And my mom was like, no. Matter of fact, she was like, if you like the outfit so much, give it to somebody else. She's not going to wear it. Like, that's what my mom was doing. Like, even down to right before, even if they would try to switch the wardrobe before us getting ready to go on set, she'd be like, nope. So those overalls and all that stuff, like, that was my mom.
Overall. Okay.
Yeah, that was because they were trying to put me in what Elisa and them were wearing. Like, they was trying to put me in that kind of stuff. There was a time where they actually literally switched our wardrobes around, I guess trying it to see if my mom was going to let me. She was like, nope, it's not going to happen. Because I was always looked at as the homegirl. So like, she was like, no, you're not going to change her image. Like, you're not going to slut her out.
Exactly. And speaking of that, Can you disclose the producer who tried to make advances? And did he have a hand in your retaliation off the show?
I cannot mention his name because he's still in power. But yes, he does.
Wow. So in what ways, besides like being written off, did they start like were kind of taking you off of the set? And did you like keep in contact with your castmates after?
So you said what ways were they like taking me, like as far as when
Besides
they started
like being written off, like what are the other things that you saw just from a kid, your child star back then that you just noticed like, oh, this, I might not be coming back for the next season. Like, had you worried?
Honestly, the crazy thing is I thought I was still coming back all up until when the police and child services came. And
So it happened like right after that moment.
oh yeah, because I still remember, not Moke and Steph, Monifa. Monifa was, I remember that. Monifa was the artist that we had. And the reason why I remember it, y'all, is because second season, they were cutting all my lines. So we played this little game of like, where's Angie? Like where's Waldo? And that was, I think, the only line I had out of that episode. Right when I was getting ready to run up the stairs and introduce her, they tapped me and like, yo, they want to see you upstairs. And took the one line I had that episode and gave it to Elisa. So you didn't even see me in that episode because as Monifa is performing, I'm upstairs talking to the president and the vice president about what happened. And I was falling because I was like, oh man, it's almost like seeing the wizard in other eyes. You know, I was like, oh man. Wow. And they're like, what you got? I was like, I'm not coming back. They're like,
so
no.
Did they just like make up a bunch of excuses?
They were just like, oh, don't worry, no, you're coming back. You know, we just want to make sure you're okay. Like they promised me that I was coming back. And I had just worked on a single and they was like, oh, you know, I could perform the single third season. Obviously it never happened, but I'm just crying. They're like, why are you crying? I was like, because I'm not coming back. I wasn't stupid. Nobody was going up to the president's office. You know what I'm saying? Like you just know. And especially about that. And sure enough, when we went back home, you know, that call came and it was just like, yeah, you know, contract wasn't renewed.
Wow. So, okay, let's touch on life after. So, as far as booking roles, did you try to continue on in the industry?
I tried. The crazy thing was when I got released, Good Burger was getting, like, they were getting ready to cast for Good Burger. And all the calls I was getting was like, oh, congratulations, because
you were in the skit?
I was Beth. But no one knew that I had just been released. So then obviously they recast, you know, so I didn't get to be part of the movie. But just everybody thinking that I was, you know, even the celebrities was like, oh, you're in this, oh, this is a big look, da da da. And I'm knowing I'm released, you know. From then I think I went to Boston Public. I was on Strong Medicine, but it was still hard to get work. It started getting to the point where the casting director was just like, oh my God, my child loves you and blah, blah, blah. But I wasn't booking to the point was, oh, we know who you are.
Why do you think that was the case?
We know who you are? Because the rumors were starting to spread. And so, like I was telling somebody, when you blackball somebody, you blackball them. So if they do start talking, you don't believe them. You think that they're now talking because they're upset because they got fired or kicked off the show, or whatever it is that you're trying to spin, because you got to remember social media and all that stuff wasn't around. So it's pretty much what you're saying out your mouth is what it is. So they're like, we're releasing her because there was this going on, or she was problematic, you know, or whatever. I don't know if they said that we're problematic, but remember, the lady who plays Aunt Viv, she said that worst thing that you could say
about a black woman. Difficult to work.
Right, difficult, you know, like that's pretty much what y'all just said about a kid.
Wow. Why do you think they did that to you?
Well, because first of all, like I said, there was already a producer that had already made sexual advances toward my mom. Like you guys already weren't playing fair. And like I said, I think a lot of that retaliation might have really had to do with my mom. Let's be clear. Because once again, I was a kid. Because my thing was, once I hit 18, what was the problem? I'm 18 now. Like, I feel like what's been happening has been very personal because, like I said, that producer is still in power and has gone up the ladder. So that it's very personal. I know people at Nickelodeon that, you know, I had gone for the reboot. That's where people were thinking. That's why a lot of people thought that I was part of the All That reboot because they saw me there. Yes, I was there. Me and Kel go to the same church. He actually rebaptized me and he baptized my children. He, you know, was one of the, I guess, one of the producers. He was like, oh, you know, just come up there. You know, he was telling me to come up. I didn't want to come up there. But my kids loved the show. So I was like, you know what? Everything I went through, y'all deserve that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to take you guys up there so you guys can experience that. And they don't know about what was going on. I haven't tainted that image for them. So when we went up there, you know, everybody was excited. There was a security guard that was like, welcome back home. The writers were excited to see me. So it's not a Nickelodeon thing. It's the person that's still in power. It's very personal. It's very personal.
One day we will know who.
Yeah.
But I also want to play a clip because after the reboot was announced, the video started circling around of you talking about like, oh, I wasn't invited to that anniversary. So we can play that.
Okay.
They didn't want, I guess, those characters to overshadow others. And then also I was one of the ones, it came back to us that I was one of the ones that had the most fan mail. So when second season came, you know, that's public history. You know, I don't have to get into it. I would say probably I didn't realize as far as the impact that I had on everyone. I don't think any of us did, actually. You know, it was in our mind, it was a job that we were starting to be known for. Like I think Keenan was the only one that probably, you know, may have been kind of used to it because he was from Mighty Ducks and you know, the other movies. But for some of us that had come from smaller projects, you know, this was just like, okay, so you're getting all these different people. You know, you met Lee, you met DLC, you met all of these people. So the impact that we had on the world, per se, wasn't something that we were aware of. And even with the fan mail, I didn't find out about the fan mail. They kept that quiet. We found out from somebody else from the network that I was one of the ones that was receiving the most fan mail. So even then, that should also tell you I wasn't getting the fan mail. So, you know, that speaks high volumes itself. I believe you guys y'all would have been for some laughs. Like there were some funny characters. I wrote a lot of my and created a lot of my characters. Okay. Like I said, there were situations where even in the table reads, you know, I'd have them cracking up, and I was specifically asked by a person to remove the voice that I had.
So you opened up about your treatment on the Shade Room. So let's watch the clip and we'll talk more about it.
From 1992 to 1996, I was a series regular on Nickelodeon's All That. I was only 12 years old, and that's when my nightmare began. I was physically, mentally, emotionally abused in front of the producers and cast members, and sometimes they could even hear me yelling. But nothing was done to help me until approximately 1996 when CPS was called. And when CPS came, I was pressured by all the adults that were set to protect me to stay silent. I did, and I have. But I can no longer stay silent, and I won't. My name is Angelique Bates, and I am an adult survivor of child abuse, and this is my story.
So when that clip started circulating, a lot of people started twisting your words. So let's clear it up.
So what's so funny about that clip, there was a publicist that I had at the time. And originally, that's why I say, like, even with the documentary, I've been trying to come out with my story. It was never about money. It was never about press. And I just literally, like I said, 2009, someone said, MySpace. It's MySpace. I just was always trying to come out with my story, and people have been trying to silence me since day one. And nobody cared, so they were able to do it. The publicist sent that tape to the Shade Room. There was supposed to be 2 parts to that. The Shade Room was promised an exclusive. So that first tape was the exclusive. The publicist, I ended up going viral. I guess I was like the only client that she had that ever went viral. So pretty much she started seeing, I guess, dollar signs or whatever. She decided that she was like, she wanted me to start lying. She wanted me to start putting extras and say that, the cast members, it was extra stuff that she wanted me to say about the cast members that didn't happen. And like I said, with Katrina has since apologized and all kinds of stuff, and we're very close. I think I had a performance getting ready to come, and she was getting ready to be there. So for me saying like she doesn't support me and with everything, she's blankly, that's clearly a lie. She wanted me to lie on the boys. I mean, there are things, but what she wanted me to say, that wasn't it. So to target America's favorites, and them obviously be like, oh, well, she's lying, and they know I'm lying, that then tarnishes what I'm saying. I declined. I told her I wasn't going to do it. So she told me until I decided I wanted to act right, she wasn't going to continue, and she wasn't going to give them the second tape. Wow. I fired her. Shade Room never got the second tape. I don't know what she said to them, but I think that they thought it was me, and I just just disappeared or whatever, because for years they wouldn't post anything that had to do with me. Like I was shocked. They just posted something a couple days ago, but that's like whatever year that was, 2016. They haven't posted anything on me since 2016. Wow. But all because that particular publicist was like, no, she was, as a matter of fact, her what she said was, you see what the Kardashians are doing? It's all about press. And I'm like, no, that's not the kind of press I want. I said, this was just supposed to be me coming out with my story. I'm not going to start lying, because once I start lying, then you just screwed up the truth.
Mm-hmm. Did any other news outlets or anyone try to come to you even after you let her go to help you clear up the details? None of them ever try to clear up anything. They just sit there and copy it. And then that's when they started switching what I said in that, where it was like the mental, physical, and the child abuse. You know what I'm saying? Like, you heard what I said. Never once did I throw all of those under my mom. Like, that's where they're getting it from that video. All they just did was copy and paste, edit, revise, and post, and then people just ran with it. Then the fans were running with it, and it's like, oh, well, this has happened. Like, just the other day, I literally, like, someone was trying to defend. They were like, no, she never said that. I don't remember what it was, but they tried to switch something. And, they said that my mother had been whooping me in front of production. Like I said, I said that earlier. And they went off on the person that was like, she never said that. This person responds like, yes, she did. It came out of her mouth. She was on a pod. Like, I see this daily where people are constantly telling other people or trying to tell me what I said. And that's like the furthest thing from the truth. And I actually got on there and was just like, because rarely do I respond to people, but I'm like, now you're saying that I actually said it. And I did it. And then someone else got on and was telling somebody how it went down, how I got released. And I actually commented. I was like, really? That's how it happened? It's the ones that try to argue with the other ones, like, no, like they know me. And this is what happened. And I followed her from day one. And no, that's not the story. And y'all keep on switching it around. And like I've told people, everything I've said is the truth. I've said it in every interview. And I've said in every interview that if there was anything that was untrue, I would have been sued off top. So everything I've said, even when you play the clip, word for word, it was so because that's been my story. That's been my truth all of these years. Nothing ever changed. Nothing ever changed. And there's witnesses. Like I said, the cast was there. The cast is witnesses. Why do you think majority of the ones that haven't spoken out, is there a reason to it, you think? For my cast? For what are we talking about, the documentary or just my experience? Your cast, because it's a lot of y'all that are still in the business, still in entertainment, but some that aren't speaking out. Because, see, this is where when you asked me the question about, people being bought out. Technically, that's really what it is if you think about it. It may not be like here's a stat, go hush. It could be your career. It could be the projects. Like, let's keep it all the way 100. Who from my cast is gonna talk and defend me, especially when some of you guys were involved? Who's gonna talk? Like, look at what's happening with their careers right now. Who's gonna talk? Nobody.
Like, because and the majority of them are still under contract.
I was about to say, because one of your castmates just recently did an interview with Tamron Hall and made some comments. So let's see what he has to say.
It's a tough subject, you know, because it's tough for me because like I can't really speak on things that I never witnessed. You know what I'm saying? Because all these things happened after I left, basically, and Dan wasn't really on Kenan and Kel like that. I mean, he got it created by credit, but you know, there was a different showrunner, so our worlds weren't really like overly, you know, overlapping like that outside of all that necessarily. And then all that negativity kind of started happening outside of like our tenure there, you know what I mean? So like, I wasn't really aware of a lot of it, but my heart goes out to, you know, anybody that's been victimized or their families, you know what I mean? I mean, like, I think it's a good thing that the doc is out and it's, you know, putting things, you know, on display that need to be, you know, stories that need to be told for this, you know, accountability's sake. But it's definitely tough to watch because I have fond memories of that place, you know, and I have fond memories of, you know, my co-stars and stuff like that. So to hear that they've gone through terrible things like that is just, it's really tough.
So, looked like he was getting teary-eyed there. So how you feel about that clip? What's up with Kenan?
Who was getting teary-eyed, me or him?
Yeah. I saw some waterworks going on.
Well, he says that he can't speak on, and actually I reposted it. I did a repost on my page. That's why I reposted it and I said, how about, but what about the things that you did see? Because he says, you know, the stuff with Dan happened after. But what about when we were in Florida?
Oh, well, what happened in Florida?
I mean, that everything that we mentioned already. He was there. Dan yelling, you know, he may not have known about the sexual. I don't think anybody knew about my mom. You know, the producer doing sexual advances towards my mom, but you knew about Dan yelling. Let's just say you may not have realized maybe the favoritism. Maybe we're just going to say that, but you knew about, you know, the bullying. You were witness to, you know, the incident that happened where.
Did he ever spoke up when he saw these happening?
Never.
Or he was just in the background?
Yeah, he was just in the background. And the thing is, there was a period where, and see, I need to address something because I know people are they're gonna say this. They're definitely gonna say this. They're gonna be like, oh, but you know, even after the show, she was in pictures because somebody got on my Twitter/X and was like, oh, do you remember doing the All That Live with Elisa and Katrina? Like they actually said that. And I'm like, yeah, what's your point? But I already know where they were trying to go with that. First of all, we were paid to do that. First of all, you know, I was probably 18, 19 with that. I've just been blackballed. At this rate, I just want to be accepted again. And you still got to remember, we're teenagers, so you still have that young mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, you saw these people, I can't, you know, say everybody, but certain ones you saw as like your brother and your sister or whatever. Kenan, even though, like I said, everybody, you know, we had, I don't want to say issues, but there were definitely, everybody played a part. There was a period where I really saw Kenan as my big brother. Even when no one else was talking to me from the cast, minus Katrina. Lori Beth, I will say this, Lori Beth was always in her own. So when you hear me talking about the cast, Lori Beth she's not even in the conversation. Lori Beth was not messing with none of us because she was always the older one. She was off doing her thing. She was always, you know, in the writing room or whatever. So she's not even part of these conversations. She was not studying us at all. But when it came to the years after, it was Kenan and Katrina. And that was like my big bro. And then it was a period where he just turned on me.
What did he do?
He just stopped talking to me. Like literally just stopped talking to me.
Like you would hit him up like, hey, bro.
Just stop talking to me.
Do you know why?
No, because that's the thing. Nobody ever says why. Nobody ever says why. They just, you know, and then several years passed and we saw each other at the All That reboot. You know, but I mean, yes, it was because we took a picture. It was me, Kel, Kenan, and Josh. So that was the first picture of us since All That.
Did y'all have a conversation later that night after the review?
Oh,
Or
it
y'all
wasn't.
just-
Oh, we didn't. Oh, it didn't go that far. It was just like,
Wow.
hey,
It was
I
just for the
see. Yeah, it was just. Yeah, it was for the gram. There was no reach. I mean, he follows me on social media or whatever. That's just about it. They all do. But he never like I said, like I will say out of everyone, I will say that probably hurt me the most because I really did see him as a big bro. But I felt like whatever was going on, the personal retaliation was part of it. And whatever rumors were going around that, I mean, obviously, because if I never did anything to you and you went from being my big bro to like you're not talking to me anymore, literally, and along with everyone else, obviously it's the same thing. Obviously,
It has to be.
So, but like I said, when he says, it happened after or he didn't witness anything, but you did. Even down to the milk thing, it was our scene. You saw that. Everybody was there. When he yelled, if you didn't see anything else, you saw that. You saw when he was
Did
yelling
he not
at me.
try to console you? Tell you
Nobody
everything
tried to
gonna be
console
okay?
me. The only one that consoled me was the director. And if it had not been for the director, that would have been it. And it was the director. I want to say from first season, it was the director, and we had a PA, Ramonda.
Rhonda.
She was always looking out for me. Those are the only two people that I could really remember production-wise that were looking out for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Speaking of production, I know a few of the men that were working behind the scenes were found guilty of the child sexual abuse. So did you ever work with Brian Peck, Ezell Chow, and Jason Handy? Did you ever come into contact with any of them?
No, people keep on asking me about that, but see, I was like I said, the Orlando cast. If Brian Peck was, I don't think he was because people, I might not have been paying attention, but I don't think he was Orlando. I think he was California. A lot of the
two
stuff,
different things.
Yeah, and that's another thing with the umbrella. Whatever, if you were experiencing any kind of racism, that's still California. That wasn't the Orlando. And then you got to think about all the other shows. Taina, you had Gola Gola Island. That was, I would have to ask Latangela, but it wasn't California. I think it was Orlando too. So, but Gola Gola Island was Orlando. That wasn't California. I don't know what was going down in California.
Were you friends with people on the other sets in
That
LA?
was crazy. No. Nobody, you got to remember, nobody was talking to me.
Towards the ending, kind of, where the retaliation began.
I never touched California Soul. With even though I was from California, they released me third season. Third season went to California. I was never part of any of those. And so when we did the 100th episode, that live that the fan was talking about, that was the first time me being back. But like I said, there was still a period, and a lot of the stuff that was happening. And this is one thing, because I think people were saying this also about Drake. It was like, when a person is abused, they end up becoming an abuser. Okay, well, when you have a kid that's been bullied all their life, has dealt with some kind of abuse, from child abuse to mental abuse, from whether it's a parent to employers to just whatever, you just always trying to find some kind of acceptance. So like I said, there was a period, if people want to be like, oh, well, how come you were in these pictures with them? Oh, I could tell you what that was. That was because I didn't have,
for the gram.
And I didn't have no self-love. I didn't care. I just wanted to be back. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to be back.
Did you get that invitation to be back after just, doing the right things, just taking the pictures with them, filming the episode or doing whatever lines you had to do? Did you get that acceptance?
Not from Nickelodeon. And actually, let me stop. Wait, see, also, like I said, it's not from California. Because like I said, I can't say all of Nickelodeon, because if I say Nickelodeon, then I'm hitting so many other people. And I'm hitting so many other shows, and that would be unfair. Because I actually have friends that are on other shows, multiple shows, not just Latangela. And they have awesome experiences, and none of what is going on in the documentary has touched those sets. So I'm going to say it's certain people that aren't even in office anymore. So they were removing bad apples. They still got some bad apples, but that's probably not going to be for too long. With that being said, whoever was in office around that time period, even after, that's where the issue was from, because they were just rolling with it. And like I said, if you were in Orlando or California didn't know what happened in Orlando, you're only going based off of what was said. And that was what a lot was happening. People were going off of he said, she said. I started having people coming back and telling me about my mama, telling me why I got off.
And speaking about your mom, she did contact child labor law. So what did she contact them for?
It was, from what I recall, one of the things was them really trying to press the line about the parents not being on set. That was the biggest thing, because they did not want her to be on set. They didn't even want her to be there. It was just like, okay, drop her off and keep it pushing. And that was the biggest problem.
Wow.
In child labor laws, you're supposed to be there.
So did they break a lot of child labor laws like often on set?
It seemed like in Orlando they were trying.
By doing what, long hours maybe?
There was definitely long hours. Like I said, not having the parents there. Like I said, some parents were cool. Like, all right, bet, I'm out. But those are like the main two. I mean, and obviously yelling at kids, and the retaliation, making sexual advancements, that kind of stuff. But anything else, I don't remember, because you got to remember my age.
Yep.
So, but that's what sticks out right now to me. But, like I said, with the cast and just when you go from being loved and everybody is like I said, the kid, like it's actually like it's a mind game. It's the word that I can think is gaslighting. Perfect word is gaslighting. Everybody love you, then all of a sudden it's just like, but you're the problem. It's like, but wait a minute, and they got you thinking that you're the problem. It's like, but even though you know that they're sitting here doing this, they doing this to you, and it's all horrible. As you get older and you start to heal, and you sit back and you're like, wait a minute.
You start to see the issues.
Y'all was doing, like what they say, it's like, am I the drama? No, it was really you. Like, y'all were really doing this. And then it was a lot of things, because when you have a lot of trauma, because see, even after the show, like I said, it was always some kind of trauma. I got raped, had nothing to do with Nickelodeon, because y'all gonna run with that. Had nothing to do with Nickelodeon. It was a fan that his uncle raped me. So it had nothing to do with Nickelodeon. So dealing with that. Okay, a fan set me up happen? Right after I had gotten released.
Wow.
Boom. Then I'm dealing with domestic violence.
That's a lot.
Then I'm dealing with alcoholism. Because now I'm just trying to drink my woes away, attempted suicide.
So how did you bury yourself out of that dark time?
God, because it went on for some years, and my best friend, rest in peace, because she's the one that actually saved me. If it wasn't for, if my late best friend hadn't saved me, I wouldn't even be sitting here right now, because she was the one that rushed me to ER. Like they said, I was 2 pills short of succeeding.
What kind of pills?
I don't know.
Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're a survivor. Wow.
So those years,
true.
it's like, that's why when people are like, oh, well, you were sitting here, da-da-da. And it's like, now, I'm in a different space where I don't care what nobody thinks. The apologies, I reposted and I was just like, oh, does this mean that people read into what they want to read into. If you paid attention to what I said, oh, does this mean I get one of the apologies? That means there's plural.
I was going to touch on
that. That means there's plural.
It's multiple.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So even with that, I'm at a stage where I don't even care if y'all give me an apology. I already took my apology. It is what it is.
And who did you want to apologize?
First of all, everybody needs to apologize. Dan would need to apologize. All the producers. Brian Robbins would need to apologize. Keenan, Elisa, all of them. Because everybody knows, whether it may have been little, everybody knows it was something that was done. And it could have been, anybody can just chalk it up to, oh, we were just being kids. But y'all all know. And then when you fast forward to now, today, all of that added up, though. But nobody really wanted me to talk. And I wasn't. And then, because like I said, a lot of that stuff, which a lot of people know when people are in trauma and they're being abused, it's things that you block out. And sometimes you don't even register what's happening. It's just like, oh, you just want to be accepted. You just want to be accepted. But it didn't start kicking in like the level of after it was towards me from everybody until it was the 10-year anniversary. I think it was the 10-year anniversary.
So for those who don't know, she reposted the Dan Schneider interview and said that a lot of people owed her an apology. So for those of you who don't know.
Right,
but, yes, but speaking of anniversary, I did see that a fan recorded you and posted it on YouTube saying, oh, why weren't you invited to the reboot? Did you see that video? Because if not, we have it.
I'm gonna let you play it.
So we're gonna look at it because they asked some questions like, I think it was a reboot you guys did that had nothing to do with Nickelodeon, but then Nickelodeon came out with the reboot, but you weren't invited.
I think I might know what you're talking about, but we gonna look because it was so much stuff that I wasn't invited to.
Yeah, we're gonna touch on that.
Why are you not gonna do it?
You would have to ask Nickelodeon.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So,
Oh, like that?
You know.
Oh, okay. Should I never watch Nickelodeon
And
again?
the last reunion,
You're right. I watched that on YouTube. What happened?
yeah, well, they didn't want to pay me.
Oh, really? So you,
Yes.
you was like, I don't work for free.
Yeah,
I mean,
you know, they didn't want to pay me.
part of my
so,
childhood, but I'm not working for free.
Yeah, you know, in this reunion, I wasn't asked, so.
Okay, so it's kind of literally.
I mean, like, you know, they contacted a lot of us.
Yeah.
But at the end, I wasn't one of the ones that went. But, you know, we did the kamikaze. Kamikaze
Right.
had us.
That's what I saw on YouTube.
And that's where everybody gets it mixed up.
Yeah.
That wasn't Nickelodeon.
Right.
That was kamikaze. Completely separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were you invited to any reboots or anniversary tapings? Because judging off of that, one was filmed and you weren't invited. So what was that about?
Okay, so what he's talking about the Comic-Con. There was the New York Comic-Con. Because we hadn't, all that reboot that wasn't even a thought yet. Because I was trying to gauge it and I'm remembering the haircut and I'm remembering the event. If I'm correct, they had already did the 10-year episode. They didn't want to pay me, like I said. So I declined. They wanted me to come, but they didn't want to pay me and they were paying everybody else. And actually,
that was the case.
The same pettiness. Like they've been pretty much persistent. Like they haven't changed with the pettiness. It's been consistent. And actually, it was crazy because some of the cast members, like they paid like $100 too. Like they wouldn't even offer me the $100. You know, like I just was like wasn't worth anything. So I declined. With that being said, we did the Kamikaze, which had nothing to do with Nickelodeon. That was not an official Nickelodeon Comic-Con. Actually, that wasn't considered Comic because Comic-Con is their own brand. It was a con. Comic-Con, the New York. So where I said they didn't invite me, so Nickelodeon itself. So it was crazy. They had a publicist, and the publicist actually ended up getting in trouble. So the thing is, when they hire new teams or whatever, the most logical thing is get all 7 cast members because everybody wants the 7 cast members. That's the most logical thing. I guess if you don't know the history, you know, because it's like this urban myth. And they reached out to my agent at the time. And they were like, yeah, Comic-Con, it's the All That reunion. My agent asked me if I wanted to do it. I was like, yeah, sure. Because I was still, you know, like, oh my God, okay, you know, I get to be with my cast members. Like, oh, they're calling, you know? I'm still in that particular space, that his space. Still wanting to be accepted, just, you know, just like me, you know, me, that kind of thing, you know, just wanting to erase everything that happened. Just go back to just being happy. Or what the warped sense of happy, the illusion of it. The publicist had already sent the information, and whatever it was, we all would have had to fly out that week. I kept on asking the agent. I was just like, "Hey, did you hear anything?" And, you know, he's like, "Oh, well, they said that they're going to get back because they got to get, you know, all the information together." Next thing I know, the internet is starting to announce who's going to Comic-Con. They announced the finals. I think it was definitely Keenan. It was Lori Beth. It was Danny. And I feel like Kel did it. I feel like Josh might have did it, but it was those. That was it. And I told my agent, and I was just like, hey, they already announced who's going. And now I think it's like a day or so before they're all going to have to go to New York for this. So he ends up reaching out and the publicist is like, oh yeah, something came up, we're going to pass, but there's more opportunities that's going to happen, and we're going to reach out to her. I already knew what that was.
Why do you think they decided to go in another direction besides just the money?
Because
they couldn't negotiate.
What, with the con?
Yeah, like,
well, the con had nothing to do with the money. This was like now years later. It was just still them being on the blackball thing and not talking. Like I said, they've been consistent with it. It's with the F you. They haven't let up off of it.
Why do you think that is? Like, what's...
Well, it's what I mentioned already with what happened. They're still riding off of what happened when
Even
Orlando.
with the new people coming into the network and the new higher-ups, it's still...
Because, like what Latangela was saying, even if you think about what Drake said, there's clearly an issue. It's the umbrella. You guys have not cleared out all of the bad apples. There's still bad apples there.
Wow. So
like when you asked me who made the advance towards my mother, and I said I'm not going to say the name because that person is still in power.
So with that happening, have you been in anything since all that?
Nothing that has to do with Nickelodeon, but I've been in other projects. And I'll get into those projects. It had nothing to do with them. And how I even got into those projects, it wasn't even the regular way of auditioning. It was like I had to go through back doors. Or they didn't realize I was the girl from All That. They didn't find out till after. I just didn't tell them, or either I just didn't put it on the resume, or they found out after because now the fans have lost their minds. Like when I did 35 and Ticking, I was in that movie. That was Kevin Hart, Mike Epps, Linnell, Megan Good was in it. That was an awesome movie. Clifton Powell, like, oh my gosh. And just to have even Clifton like tell me that he admired my work. And I had two lines in that movie. And a lot of people come to me to this day saying those lines. And for Clifton Powell to just be like, yo, you did a great job. Like, it's stuff like that that makes it keep going. But it's just also, it's like, dang, like when they're blocking you, it's like, I could have been in anything. I could have been in other roles. Like there's so many opportunities that were blocked. But you know what? I take that back. Because I used to say that. I used to be like, there were so many opportunities that were blocked. But what's for you is always going to be for you. You know what I'm saying? So what God has in store, it's going to be. You might have to, you might think you're late. But you're not. You're right on time. There's lessons you got to learn.
So if the opportunity ever presented itself, would you ever consider working back with Nickelodeon?
See, that there's so much stuff that would have to happen. Because the thing is, we already know with everything that's happening right now, and this is with anybody across the board where there's so much allegations and everything coming out, nobody's just doing anything for the kindness of their heart. So they're not gonna, like, somebody asked me this other day, I said, the one main person, I said that person would rather choke on their own vomit than apologize to me. So like, it's just like, it's so personal, but it's crazy that I was a minor. Like that, I think that was the part that baffled me for so many years. Like I could see if I legitimately did something, because we know situations where there were child stars that they were stealing equipment, or they were just fighting. They were, joyriding, doing all kinds of stuff, getting in legal action. But I was a kid. And then most of the drama is stuff that you guys were doing. Like it was a crazy work environment. And you're penalizing me for that. But it's really personal because, like I said, I can't even say it's Nickelodeon because when I went for the reboot, like I have a whole video, I posted it, where they even surprised me when they did the reboot and they did an OG cast call, and they called me, how they do it when they like Income Next, Angelique Bates, and they did that. So if that was a Nickelodeon thing, they wouldn't even have did that. If that was a Nickelodeon thing, the security guard wouldn't have said, welcome back home. If it was a Nickelodeon thing, the writers wouldn't have been so excited. If it was a Nickelodeon thing, the casting director wouldn't have been so excited. They just knew I was going to be on the next episodes. But the person who had made the sexual advances towards my mom, no one told them that I was going to be there. And when they saw me, you could tell they were a little shocked.
You did touch on that in an earlier clip. I'm gonna play it, but you did touch on that.
Hey, you found that? I don't even remember. Like
we gonna see it. Let's take a look.
Show, you leave it alone. Right. It's not a Dan Schneider thing. Calm the fuck down. Let's get her on the show.
Like
Calm down.
I I had to really, well, I'm sorry for the way it was just, I had to really like figure out because like I've already been blackballed, and
Of
it's like
course.
when I did try to come out, I came under attack. And people try to stretch the words. At the end of the day, I told everybody, I said, if you actually listen and you pay attention to the videos, if I said anything that was incorrect, Nickelodeon would have sued my ass. They did not, because I did not say one thing that was a lie. I did not slander them. Everything I said was the truth, and there's a paper trail. So they know. Like, trust and believe, if I said anything, they were waiting. They probably just were waiting for me to just say one thing that was untrue, and then I would have a gag order right now. That didn't happen because everything I said was true. And as far as my mom, the blackball thing, there was more aspects to it. Like I said, first season, I was pretty much one of the stars. One of them, because it was me. It would have been Cal and Keenan, and I think that was pretty much how. And then Lori Beth, because Lori Beth was,
Lori
body
Beth,
information. Yeah, so she was always in there like swimwear. Now the second season, the reason why it started looking like I was an extra is because first season, certain people, I don't want to say names, certain people try to make advances towards my mother. My mother turned them down.
Ooh.
And when that happened, my role started suffering. So because my mother went to sleep with certain people, it affected me. My mom completely blocked anything that was trying to happen. There was a situation where something inappropriate did try to happen. We were at a party, and my mom completely blocked it. But that's like the only memory that I have. But my mom was pretty much that wall. And they did not like that. And then my mom turns you down on top of it. Oh, she's public enemy number one.
Wow.
So, and then this child is getting abused too. Oh, child services came. Oh, the police have came. Oh, okay, yeah, no, we gotta get rid of her.
Right.
And what's the best way where nobody believes anything? Oh, let's blackball her. We're gonna make it seem like this happened. So if I do say anything, then they're not gonna believe her. She's just saying it because she's been blackballed. But people in Hollywood don't ask. They just automatically are just like, hey, she got released from Nickelodeon. And the thing was, I was going to sue them. And at that age, when they released me the way that they did, and somebody told me, they were like, well, the lawyer was like, go for it. The lawyer was like, go for it. But someone else was like, if you sue, you can get blackballed.
Yeah,
and I got blackballed anyway.
Yeah, and
so I wish I had sued them.
Okay, so do you have any guilt for not continuing to going through with the lawsuit?
So the lady kept trying to get access to my trust fund. My mother was like, no, if you want to be her guardian, then I'll let you take her, to the auditions or whatever. So the lady was mad about that. She ended up, actually, we found out that she was really best friends with one of the top Black casting directors. And she was in charge of a lot of shows. So she had gone back to that casting director telling her whatever she told her about my mother, and I guess that I was a problem child and all this. That casting director would not book me on anything. And the thing was, a lot of people didn't even realize what I went through in that household with that woman. That woman used to make baths for me, and she used to pour bleach in the water. And when I would ask her why she would pour bleach in the water, she was like, her grandmother pretty much taught her, if you pour bleach in the water, you can lighten your skin. So she was trying to lighten my skin. Yeah. Because that was also the era where we were doing the light skin, dark skin. That was going on in the...
And speaking on that, since you were the only fully Black woman on the show. So back to the milk incident. So why do you feel as though no one ever intercepted? Because somebody might say, oh, well, you had some other people of color on the show, and that incident has to do with someone else who's biracial in a way. So why do you think that there was no consequences for her and it was only for you?
Well, because of that particular that particular cast member, I was already, like I said, there was already a prior situation that me and Elisa had already had. Katrina was always, and it was like the laughing joke, Katrina was always the mischievous one because she was the baby. So she was always doing stuff. So when that happened, actually, Elisa's the one that didn't get in trouble. I've always said, and this is where the story was getting mixed up. So to clear up something, Katrina did get in trouble. The next week, they retaliated. They wrote a scene where one of the other cast members was repeatedly spitting water out in her face, and my mom intervened and came out of the dressing room and told them that was enough. So, see, because it's two of them, I always get it mixed up. So, Elisa never got reprimanded. Like, it was just like, they laughed. That's why Katrina thought it was so funny that she could get away with it. But Katrina would not have gotten in trouble if it hadn't been for the director, because he was the one that was like, no, you're going to come back up and you're going to look at the tape. If he had never came down and he had turned, turned his head, because those that were down on the floor saw what happened, but nobody was going to be like, Dan, you're wrong. If it had not been for the director showing the tape, then yes, both of them would have gotten away with it. But they retaliated on her because now he just got, chewed out or whatever, however that conversation went. Obviously, you did not like it because you just got embarrassed. They made her pay the next week.
It's kind of like a vengeance for her wrongdoing, giving her a taste of her own medicine.
Yeah, but the way that they worked, it was like they could have cared less about what she did. I think that was more, he got in trouble. So it was, because like I said, she technically did it. If it had not been for the director coming down, because I was getting yelled at. It was, she did not get yelled at until it was like, go look at the tape.
So have you guys, because I know you're still cool with, I think you said Katrina. So how is it, your relationship with Elise?
We don't talk.
Oh, why do you think that is? Even from like when you guys were young and on set, why do you feel like there was kind of a, like, what do I want to say, tension on set?
Competition, because like I said, but you have to think about how they were setting it up. Like the first thing, I think that's exactly what it was, because you even said like I was the first one that was popping up. Then I told you that someone from Nickelodeon had already told us years later I was one of the ones getting a lot of the mail. If I'm one of the ones getting attention, and that's what, like, that goes even in school.
So do you think it was jealousy between you and Alicia on set?
I believe it was jealousy between me and Elisa, because, like I said, first season it was clear who originally were supposed to be the stars, or who they were focusing on. And I think you asked me also, if we were still in communication, that we weren't, like, we pretty much had fallen out, we weren't talking, and then now we're just cordial.
That's good. So speaking about the fan favorites and who was supposed to be the stars, did you ever feel pressure to play any stereotypes on all that?
No, and the only reason why I say that is because my mom, once again, it goes back to the parents, my mom specifically had it in the contract. There were certain characters that I wouldn't play. One character in particular, because I did impersonations, she had it put in the contract that I wouldn't do any Michael Jackson jokes. Like, that was actually in the contract. So anything stereotypical, my mom wasn't going for it.
And this was during the time when
all the allegations
from Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Smart move. So do you think that them being in the documentary, i.e. Giovanni, Brian, Leon, like everyone who's in the documentary, do you think that kind of sealed their fate, or do you think that's going to book them more roles in Hollywood?
When you start, everyone's a different race. So what one does, the other one can't do. With that being said, I think for those whose story is their story, like Drake, I don't know. Maybe he might. Anyone else, because there were so many different people and aspects. If certain stories aren't your story, or if it just seems like it's distracting, I don't know. I know, me personally, it wasn't a smart move for me to do, because like I said, it wasn't my story. And I feel like anybody whose story it wasn't, that was not a smart move to do. Especially if you still want to work in the industry, because we know how Hollywood is.
I agree.
So, and everybody is under the same umbrella. It's not just this network is over here and this network is over here. If you pay attention and you Google, everyone wants to Google, you'll see that everybody is connected to each other. So that means everybody knows everybody. And just because this one person worked over here on this one network, guess what? This person is now a writer, a producer, or a creator over here.
I agree. So, how would you feel vindicated for your wrongdoings? What would need to happen in order for justice to be served for you?
Um, I would say, because this is the wording of that. So, like I said, there's nothing, and let's just say, with everything that's been done, realistically, there's nothing that could be done. But if we want to play the game of Hollywood and, play that game, then obviously the way that you guys publicly try to humiliate me and try to publicly silence me, then you need to publicly apologize because of your actions, because this is about to be our 30-year anniversary. For 30 years.
Or do you think something might be in the works, or you think that's like off the table, especially with the documentary and everything happening?
With them, I'm pretty sure I think Keenan mentioned something about trying to do
because he has his own production company, so it might not even be under Nickelodeon. He might,
but it's still he doesn't own the rights to it, so it's still a Nickelodeon property. But I don't know what they're gonna do. I know that I did hear things about the 30th anniversary. That was before the documentary. I'm pretty sure they're probably trying to figure out something because there's so much going on. But what way they're going, I have no idea. I know I haven't been a part of any of their reunions, so I'm not even focused on that. But I would say, like I said, publicly they would have to apologize because it was their words and their actions that created the trickling effects with everything else. The other casting directors, the other peers, and that thought they could do the same thing and no one cared. That thought they could just, turn or pretty much silence me. That's why they don't want to do the apology, because then that means that you're admitting to everything that you did.
And it goes further than just you, because I know your son, because they did a reboot of all that, and they didn't know it was your son that was auditioning.
Yeah, which was crazy because he has my last name, but they did not realize it was my son. Like, my son got called into audition. So that's why I said it's not a Nickelodeon thing. And even when they did end up finding, they were like, oh my God, that was your son. They was like, why didn't you tell us? They found out at the reboot. So it was like, it was still the excitement. And I said, and the reason why I said I didn't want to tell, I said, because I didn't want my name to taint his chances. And it was like, no. So like I said, it's not a Nickelodeon thing. That when you see that happening, they're just like, and the casting director was sitting there like, okay, well, next time, such and such, like she was trying to help. It's a personal situation. Like, so personally for 30 years, you've had a personal vendetta against me or my mom.
That's a lot. So to all the people watching this that may say you're just doing it for clout chasing or some type of fame or attention, what do you want them to understand? You can tell.
It's definitely not clout chasing, because I've been talking about it since 2009, MySpace days. There was a period where I wasn't talking about it. You guys didn't officially hear about it until 2016. If it was for clout chasing, I still would have had the publicist. I still would have had Shade Room would have had part 2. You guys didn't have part 2 because she wanted me to clout chase. That was what the whole thing was about. Then you didn't hear anything. Then I got thrown back into it with the documentary. And then everyone wanted to start telling me what my truth was again and mixing up words with my mother. So this is actually the first visual interview that's been done. The one that's been surfacing throughout, either it's been interviews from 2016, it's been interviews from 2017. The Blast has the most recent, and that was like literally a couple questions, but it was about the documentary. So this is definitely not clout chasing, because you don't see me hitting different platforms here and there every other day. Like, this is pretty much it. And people have been coming to me. I haven't, searched for anybody. Everyone's been coming to me, and I have not accepted every invite because they're there.
Well, I'm glad you accepted our invite. And I want to thank you for coming on and clearing up the rumor, the allegations, and setting the truth free. And I hope you guys enjoyed and got the tea you needed, because we just spill all the truth over here. And thank you for your time. And this has been another exclusive with Who Got the Story.